My talk this evening is going to be about ways that you can enable well-being for autistic children. And the reason I've focused on well-being it's been greatly influenced by some recent research and some reading that I've been doing and talks that I've been attending. And these are people from the fields of autism, such as I have to mention the amazing work of Gina Davis and the Attention Autism programs, and people like Peter Mullen, Glynis Jones, and literature of people who themselves are on the spectrum, such as the amazing work recently of Sarah Hendricks, who has produced some very, very interesting and really insightful work into why we should maybe think about well-being with our children. And I'm also going to talk as a class teacher how we've used some of these ideas, because I think it's great to find out about new research, and I think it's great to find out, and to do lots of reading, and I'm very passionate about my work, but actually it's only great if you can transfer it into your daily practice. So this is why I've really focused on that, because I wanted it to improve the well-being for the children I teach. Okay. Right, so I suppose really, why has this been a bit of a subject recently, and why hasn't it always been something that we thought about? It seems quite logical that we think about well-being for ourselves. We think of ways to improve our well-being. There's mindfulness at the moment, isn't there? And we think about, all these great ways that we can feel better, more relaxed and happier. But yet it hasn't been such a prominent topic for children with autism. And I think what we have to maybe recall in our history of understanding of autism is that we've understood, I suppose it's been around our understanding is about 60 years. And it describes symptoms of this unique group of children in terms very much of a deficit model. So they described these children of things they couldn't do, areas of great difficulty. And so we had this kind of deficit medical model of autism. And likewise, what of course happens with this kind of thinking, and probably because we have to evolve, with our knowledge and understanding and research, is that interventions were based on problems, weren't they? How we can fix, how we can make better, how we can get rid of areas of difficulty for these children. And so we focused on difficulties. And I mean, we've even, some interventions may even say we can cure, and words like that. So what we're actually doing, we're probably bringing children up with a message, if we thought in that way, that actually if they removed some of these areas, then they'd be perfect, wouldn't they? They'd just be right. And that idea, of course, none of us would agree with. So how can we maybe think about ways of really focusing on well-being and improving the outcomes for our young children? Okay, so I mean, likewise, if we thought about it for ourselves, if we think about things that we cannot do for a moment, and we all have these conversations, it could be an area, or it could be something in our relationships that are really kind of quite poor. We're not very good at that. I'm not very good, if you're not very sociable, you don't call your friends enough. But if we think about things we can't do, it does make us feel quite low, doesn't it? And very often we're very good at talking ourselves up and making it, it's been a bad day, but we're going to make it even better. We're going to count our blessings or something. So it's no different for the children. So how about we think about our children as children. We think about the strengths, we think about their interests, and that's our focus, that's what we're going to really work on. And by doing this, we've got a really good place to begin with, and we're working with that child, your own child, or for myself going into my classroom, the children I teach, and a good place to develop relationships where they feel valued for who and all they are. Okay, so Okay, so how do these, there's been a lot of, so this was a lot of the thinking from my research and from my reading and so on. So how did it kind of work in my classroom? I think this is the important bit for me. Okay. So a good place that it's a good activity to do if you're in a class, or actually if your parents actually thinking about, okay, think about your child, think about the children in your class, and then think about their day, and perhaps you could score each activity out of 10. It's a really good activity to do. I did it with my class team and it was quite fun. And then ask yourself what it is about the activities that score highly. What is it about those? And what we're talking about, what we're looking for, are times when there's an absence of anxiety, times when the child is more relaxed, and times when the child feels like they want to communicate. When does that child communicate? Okay, and then, so it's very interesting to just think of those points and nothing else. Then look at those activities that are scoring highly, and then think about the activities that maybe you thought, that's rubbish. That's why are we doing this bit of the day? Or that's really tough. But think about how you can take the great, what is it about those activities that you can perhaps transfer into the activities that the child's not so relaxed, not so ready to communicate and feels anxiety. Okay, so if you can do that, you found, what we found in our class was it wasn't just the activities that were enjoyable for the children, it was likewise, the staff felt great as well. So by doing that, you actually feel it improves everybody's well-being. It improves a family's well-being. It improves your staff team's well-being. So it's a good activity, I can tell you. What we actually found were the activities that scored highly were activities that were incredibly visually beautiful, engaging, that where there was a mutually enjoyable, and it was things like the Attention Autism program. It was things where you used fun, where you used laughter, where the children, the social anxieties were taken away from them because we enabled the children to just take part and enjoy it. There was no other demands on them. And then, what happens from these types of activities is that learning takes place, communication will improve, and for my class, I can honestly tell you that this type of approach has changed my teaching and has been the best fun I have ever had working and with these children, and I can see their enjoyment. And there is nothing better to see your children enjoy what you're doing each day, and we enjoy it too. Okay, so we know that other areas we can think about are things like our use of language. So we're very conscious that when we think about children with autism, we talk about their interests, no longer our interests, they're obsessions, aren't they? We talk about, oh, he's obsessed with that. And as soon as you start using negative terms, what happens is you want to remove that. Obviously, it's no good, is it? You want to change that, take it away from them. But actually, what we might have to consider is that very often, for very young children, that is a very safe place and a safe place for comfort. So why not shift your thinking and maybe join that child with their interest? Maybe we can call it an enthusiasm. Maybe we can call it a passion. It really changes how people can think about that child. Actually, then you've got a nice place to start with that child. We know also that children with autism have experienced a lot of anxiety, so plan ahead and think of ways that you can incorporate movement within your activities, which really helps to reduce stress. So we do all that together. Okay, so really what I'm trying to sum up is that when we shift our thinking and perhaps change our vocabulary, and we really focus on well-being in your classroom, at home, engagement increases, you develop positive relationships, the child feels valued for who they are, and there is just this feeling of that they're accepted and they are perfect. Okay, thank you very much.